No species dared to enter the Milky Way. The Galactic Union had mapped countless galaxies, establishing vast trade routes, diplomatic treaties, and research stations across the stars. But the Milky Way remained an anomaly, an untouched, unclaimed void in the cosmic map. It wasn't due to treaties or legal barriers, it was something else. A warning that passed through the generations, whispered in hushed tones among starfarers and scholars alike. The records were clear. 6 expeditions had vanished within its depths, the last transmission from one of them hauntingly cryptic. They are coming through the walls. Gods above, how are they doing that? Stay back, stay back. Silence followed. For 800 years, no one had dared to set foot in that galaxy again, until now. A challenge to caution. The Void Seeker, a modest research cruiser, hovered at the edge of the Milky Way. On the bridge, Captain Zoric Vander let out a booming laugh, his 3 breathing sacs inflating simultaneously, an anatomical quirk of his species that sent his second-in-command, Leratonanis, stepping back to avoid being buffeted by the expanding membranes. "I failed to see the humor, Captain," Science Officer Renk Pol said, his eye stalks quivering with irritation. He stood tall, 9 feet of sleek, pale blue scales shimmering under the command deck's lighting. The Galactic Council has classified this region as cautioned, not forbidden. There's no legal restriction against exploration. Zoric wiped a tear from his eye, his nasal ridges still twitching in amusement. "Oh, sure. And there's no legal restriction against jumping into a quantum furnace either. But most sentient beings recognize a bad idea when they see one." Silence settled over the bridge. The Void Seeker was a long-range expeditionary ship designed to probe the unknown, but even the bravest crew had their doubts about this mission. LRA hesitated, then spoke. "Perhaps Officer Pol has a point, Captain. The legends about this galaxy are old. Maybe whatever caused those disappearances is gone by now." "Legends?" Zoric scoffed, crossing his arms. 6 separate expeditions went dark over 3,000 years. The last message from Commander Jax's crew was pure nightmare fuel. And let's not forget the Dalian war fleet that sent a distress call claiming their battle cruiser was being dismantled around them by something they couldn't even see. Rank dismissed him with a flick of his secondary limbs. That was nearly 800 years ago. Whatever caused those disappearances could be long gone. Besides, our detection equipment is far superior now. Superior enough to protect us from something that even a Dalian battlecruiser couldn't handle? The argument was interrupted by the navigator, a small, fur-covered creature named Petruvian, who swiveled in his chair. His species was known for its unparalleled analytical skills. "Captain, I've been reviewing the historical data," Petruvian said. "There's an odd pattern in the disappearances. They all entered through the same sector, NGC 4729. But there's an alternative route that no one has tried. If we approach from the galactic south, we might avoid whatever caused those incidents." Zoric stared at the holographic display, his skepticism evident in the downward curl of his mouth tendrils. "That would add 6 months to the journey," he grumbled. "But it might keep us alive," Rank countered. "Captain, the scientific community would shower you with accolades for being the first to successfully explore the Milky Way. Think of the discoveries waiting there, an entire galaxy that has remained virtually untouched by the Union." LRA pressed the advantage. "The Admiralty gave us discretionary authority for this mission. They want us to push boundaries. If we can do this safely, we should." Zoric groaned, rubbing his face with his upper limbs. "Fine," he conceded, "but we approach with extreme caution. Stealth protocols, minimal emissions, and at the first sign of trouble, we run faster than a Zorgon chased by its mother-in-law." A cheer erupted from the bridge. A forbidden galaxy, an unknown danger, a mystery untouched for centuries. This was exactly the kind of adventure many had dreamed of, but never expected to experience. "Plot the course, navigator," Zoric ordered, sinking into his chair. "And may the cosmic entities have mercy on our foolish souls." 3 months later, first contact. The Milky Way loomed large on the main view screen, its spiral arms stretching across the void like tentacles of a cosmic predator. "Energy readings are consistent with a typical spiral galaxy," Rank reported, his eye stalks hunched over his console. "No unusual radiation signatures, no major distortions." "Perhaps the dangers were exaggerated," Laura mused. "Or," Zoric countered, "perhaps whatever lurks here is just good at hiding." Dr. Miria Vex, the ship's anthropologist, stood at the edge of the command deck. Her willowy form shimmered in iridescent colors, her skin shifting to a contemplative amber as she spoke. "The most intriguing aspect of the legends about this galaxy," she said, "isn't the disappearances themselves, but the fragmented transmissions we recovered before contact was severed." "What about them?" Laura asked. Miria's skin rippled to an excited blue. "They often mention encountering a species that should not exist, a civilization that achieved faster than light travel despite being categorized as primitive pre-space flight mere centuries earlier. They called themselves humans." Zoric frowned. "That's impossible. No species develops that quickly." Miria nodded. "Precisely. That makes them either an incredible scientific anomaly or," she hesitated. "Or what?" Laura prompted. Miria took a slow breath, her colors deepening. "Or they had help." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red warning lights bathed the command deck in an eerie glow. "Proximity alert," Petruvian yelped, his paws flying over the controls. "Unknown object approaching at high velocity." "Battle stations," Zoric commanded. "Shields up, evasive maneuvers." The ship's AI locked onto the approaching anomaly, a small, cylindrical object. It was made of primitive materials, yet moved with purpose. "It's on an intercept course," Illyra reported. "Impact in 30 seconds. Scan it." Rank worked furiously. "No energy weapons, no propulsion system detected. It appears to be drifting, but that's impossible given its vector." 10 seconds to impact," Petruvian warned. "Brace for collision," Zoric shouted. The crew tensed, but the object slowed, halting just 50 meters from their hull. Rank's voice trembled. "Captain, it's sending a signal." "A distress call?" "No." Rank swallowed. "It's music." The command deck of the Void Seeker was bathed in red light, alarms still echoing through the walls. Every officer was at their station, tense and waiting for the worst. But the expected attack never came. Instead, the object floating just outside their hulls sang. A transmission of haunting, rhythmic tones filtered through the bridge's speakers, a melody unlike anything they had ever encountered. It wasn't just sound, it resonated, almost like it was alive, its structure following an intricate mathematical pattern. Science Officer Rank Pole worked furiously at his console, his eye stalks flickering between multiple displays. "It's using a primitive radio wave transmission," he muttered, half in awe, half in disbelief. "No complex encryption, no quantum encoding, just a basic modulated signal. This is ancient technology." "But it stopped before impact," Elra Tananis pointed out. "That means it has some kind of guidance system." "A probe," whispered Dr. Miria Vex, her skin shimmering in astonishment. An old-fashioned first-contact probe, the kind primitive species send when they first start reaching beyond their home system. Silence fell over the bridge. A first-contact probe? In a galaxy that had been abandoned for nearly a millennium? Can you decrypt the rest of the message? Zoric Vander asked, gripping the arms of his captain's chair. Working on it, Renk replied, fingers flying over his console. The bridge's main display flickered, then transformed. A holographic projection emerged. First, an image of a star system, 8 planets orbiting a yellow star. Then a blue-green world, covered in vast oceans and swirling clouds. And then they saw them, humans. They stood upright, bipedal, with no fur, scales, or exoskeletons, only smooth skin in varying shades of beige and brown. Their eyes faced forward, their posture rigid with intent. A primitive species by all known records. And yet, Zoric inhaled sharply as the final image appeared. A crude map of the Milky Way, an arrow pointing directly to the blue-green world. An invitation. Miria's voice was barely more than a breath. They want us to come to them. Debating the impossible. The bridge fell into a stunned silence. The music still played softly in the background, the eerie melody lingering in the air like a whisper from the past. "This doesn't make sense," Lyra finally said, breaking the tension. "We were told humans barely had spaceflight a few hundred years ago, that they were isolated, primitive. But this probe, this signal, suggests they're expecting visitors." Zoric's mind raced. The Galactic Union had classified the Milky Way as a hazardous, uncharted void. No one had returned from expeditions into this region for centuries, yet here was evidence that someone had been waiting for them all along. Renk's secondary limbs flexed as he examined the probe's structure. The materials in this thing are hundreds of years old. It must have been launched before any of those missing expeditions even arrived. Miria's skin flushed into deep midnight blue, a color of unease. That means the humans sent this before anyone in the Galactic Union even knew to avoid this galaxy. And they must have kept sending more. Waiting. Watching. Zoric's breathing slowed. Someone had set a trap before anyone even knew there would be prey. Or worse. Someone had been planning for this encounter long before the rest of the galaxy even noticed. LRA exhaled through clenched teeth. "Captain, this feels wrong. We should turn back." Miria, however, looked fascinated. "No, this is history in the making. A species that shouldn't be advanced is advanced. A civilization that should be primitive is clearly not. If we turn back now, we may never know why the Milky Way was abandoned." Zoric leaned forward. "Navigator Petruvian, can you plot a safe course to the coordinates from the probe?" The small, furry navigator hesitated. "Well, we've avoided the danger zones where previous expeditions disappeared. But if we go directly to the coordinates, there's no guarantee of safety. No records, no maps, no Union beacon relays." Zoric exhaled. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around and leave this place alone. But something about the probe's message, about the way the humans sent it, it was too deliberate, too patient. They had waited centuries for someone to answer, and now, for better or worse, that someone was them. Finally, he made his decision. "Adjust our course," he ordered. "We're going to follow the probe back to its origin." The watchers in the dark, as the Void Seeker altered its trajectory, its engines humming softly against the void, no one noticed the tiny device that detached from the probe and latched onto their hull. A black shard, barely the size of a human fingernail, burrowed into their ship's exterior plating, seamlessly merging with the metal. A signal pulsed. Far beyond the reaches of known space, hidden in the darkness of the Milky Way, something stirred. The ancient warning signals flared across unseen networks. Data streams pulsed with cold precision. The beacon had been answered. And now, humanity knew they were coming. The Void Seeker sliced through the blackness of space, moving deeper into the Milky Way than any known ship in the past 8 centuries. Every moment felt like stepping into the unknown. The galaxy grew larger on the view screen, its swirling arms stretching out in hypnotic spirals. Each sector they passed through was unmapped, a void of radio silence and long-lost expeditions. Zoric Vander sat in his command chair, hands clasped tightly. Status? Science Officer Rank Pol leaned over his console. Energy readings remained stable, no unusual activity, no distress signals, no gravitational anomalies. So, no sign of the things that supposedly wiped out entire fleets? Lyra Tananis asked, voice tight. Not yet, Rank admitted. But that was the problem, wasn't it? Something had lured 6 expeditions into the Milky Way and erased them from existence. No debris, no black boxes, no wreckage, just silence. And yet, the Void Seeker moved undisturbed, as if the galaxy itself had been waiting for them. It felt wrong, like walking into a house that should be abandoned, only to find the table set for dinner. First signs of humanity. Captain, Rank's voice broke through the silence, a flicker of tension in his usually controlled tone. I'm detecting artificial structures ahead. Every head on the bridge turned. Ilera stepped forward. Structures, as in space stations? Rank nodded slowly. Scattered throughout the system's outer boundary. Defensive perimeter, possibly. Zoric narrowed his eyes. Defensive? Are they weapons platforms? Rank hesitated. They're not emitting weapons-grade energy, but they're definitely active. I'm also picking up communication bursts, encrypted signals passing between these constructs. Laura frowned. Wait, you're telling me humans have automated defenses surrounding their home system? A species that was supposed to be primitive not long ago? Silence settled over the bridge. Zoric exhaled, put it on screen. The view screen flickered, revealing the outer edge of the Sol system, and the dozens of massive hulking constructs stationed like silent sentinels. Dark metal, titanic in size. They weren't crude, slapdash defenses built by a struggling civilization. They were purposeful, planned, and worse, they were watching. Rank's fingers twitched over the controls. Captain, we're being scanned. A visitor approaches, the ship lurched as new alerts flared. Incoming vessel, cried Navigator Petruvian. High velocity, controlled flight pattern. The bridge snapped into action. Tactical assessment, Zoric barked. Dreve Quarren, the reptilian weapons officer, scanned the data streaming in. Small craft, single pilot, minimal armaments, not a significant threat to us. Then why the hell is it moving like that? Ulra muttered, staring at the screen. The human ship wasn't fast. It was impossible. It moved at acceleration rates that should be tearing it apart, yet its structural integrity remained perfectly intact. It was a ship that ignored physics as the Union understood it. Captain, Communications Officer Jorel Nex said slowly, his antennae twitching. They're hailing us. Zoric's breathing slowed. Put it through. A burst of static filled the bridge speakers. Then a voice emerged. Melodic yet strong. A language they didn't understand, yet somehow felt. The cadence of command, of authority. Jorel's fingers flew over his console. They're using the same mathematical encoding as the probe, he said in amazement. They extrapolated a communication protocol based on our response. Zoric clenched his jaw. They figured out how to talk to us in a matter of days. The static faded, and finally a translated voice emerged from the speakers. "Greetings, travelers from beyond our stars. I am Commander Alara Novak of the Earth Alliance. You have entered human space. We welcome peaceful contact, but be warned, our defenses are considerable. State your intentions." A hush fell over the bridge. Elira was the first to whisper what everyone was thinking. "They don't sound primitive at all." Approaching Titan, Zoric swallowed, then straightened in his chair. "This is Captain Zoric Vander of the Galactic Union vessel Void Seeker," he said, voice steady. "We are on a scientific mission. We intercepted your probe and followed its invitation to make contact." Silence. Then the human's voice returned. "Your cooperation is appreciated, Captain Vander. Please maintain your current position while I escort you to our outpost on Titan. From there, we will establish diplomatic protocols." "Understood," Zoric replied. The human vessel veered in front of them, guiding them deeper into the system. Rank exhaled, running a hand over his eye stalks. "Titan, I believe that's a moon of their 6th planet. A gas giant. Not their homeworld?" Lyra questioned. "They're being cautious," Miria noted. "They don't know our intentions." Zoric watched as they passed the human-built stations, seeing massive orbital structures surrounding planets. Mining facilities, terraforming arrays, transport vessels moving between planets. It was industrialized space, more than some Union planets had. A species that had supposedly just discovered FTL had already reshaped entire worlds. Zoric exhaled. "They've been busy." Rank scans confirmed the impossible. "Captain, their habitats, their industrial hubs, they're not just surviving in space, they're thriving. Their technology isn't just advanced, it's different. It doesn't follow the conventional technological tree of most spacefaring species." Zoric frowned. "Then where did it come from?" Rank hesitated. "Either they are far more advanced than anyone thought, or..." He looked at Miria. She finished the sentence for him. "Someone gave it to them." Zoric turned back to the screen, watching as they approached Titan. A massive outpost spread across the surface, its domes and spires stretching as far as the eye could see. He didn't like this. It was too deliberate, too prepared. They weren't just stumbling upon humanity. Humanity had been expecting them. "Void Seeker, follow the guidance beacons to docking platform Alpha 7, Novak's voice instructed. "Our administrator will meet you upon arrival." Zoric inhaled deeply. "Take us in." The Void Seeker descended, docking smoothly within the massive human complex. Through the viewports, the crew saw dozens of vessels, some of human origin, others alien. Laura's eyes widened. "They've made contact with other species?" "Not Union species," Rank said grimly. "These designs, they're from rogue colonies. Independents." Zoric's grip tightened. "Then who the hell have they been talking to all this time?" The airlock cycled open. The first humans they had ever seen stepped forward, and they were smiling. The Void Seeker's airlock hissed open. A delegation of humans stood before them. They were as the probe had depicted. Bipedal, smooth-skinned, forward-facing eyes, their height and builds varying, but their posture unmistakable. Confident, controlled, not primitive at all. The one at the front stepped forward, a tall figure with dark skin and striking green eyes. His uniform was immaculately pressed, the insignia on his chest gleaming under the artificial lights. He smiled, a display of teeth, something most species would consider a predatory gesture. "Captain Vander, I am Administrator Tajo Okafor. Welcome to Titan Outpost." Zoric hesitated before stepping forward. "Administrator," he greeted carefully, measuring his words. "You seem well prepared for this encounter. Tissot's smile never wavered. "You are the first Galactic Union representatives to accept our invitation," he said. "Many others have observed our probes. None have responded." Zoric felt a cold weight settle in his gut. They knew. For centuries, they had watched as the Union skirted the edges of their domain. They had waited for someone to take the bait, and now the trap had sprung. A story the Union never told. The humans led them through the Titan facility, its vast corridors filled with high-tech machinery, glowing displays, and personnel working efficiently. There were other species here too. Non-Union species working alongside humans as equals. Zoric had no idea how many civilizations humanity had been in contact with, and that terrified him. Finally, they were brought to a conference chamber, a panoramic window overlooking the colony on one side, a holographic display of the Milky Way on the other. Tissot stepped forward, activating the hologram. "Let me tell you a story, Captain," he said. "One the Union never told you." The hologram shifted, displaying a scene from 350 years ago. A Galactic Union survey vessel, its markings unmistakable, landed on Earth. "Your people violated their own protocols," Tissot said, voice even. "They believed themselves undetected. They were wrong." The image changed, showing scientists in Union uniforms. They collected samples, biological, geological, technological. And then, a mistake. A pathogen, harmless to the Union species, was accidentally introduced into human populations. It spread like wildfire. Tissot's voice hardened. "Millions of us died before we could develop a cure." Silence fell over the room. Zoric felt his blood run cold. That would be a monumental violation of Union law," Leroy whispered. "Yes," Tissot agreed, "and your Union buried it." The hologram showed something far worse. Union ships in orbit, watching, studying, but never interfering, never helping. Zoric's fists clenched. "If this is true—" "Oh, it's true, Captain." Tissot's smile faded, replaced by something colder. "And that was the moment we knew we had to change." The human uplift, Zoric exhaled. "But even with unity, that doesn't explain how you advance this fast," he argued. "No species develops at this rate." Tissot's eyes gleamed. "Ah, but we had help." The hologram changed again. Other species, non-Union civilizations, some of them refugees, others forgotten colonies, a handful, Union defectors. They gave humanity what it needed, and humanity made it their own. Dr. Miria's skin flushed with realization. "Illegal technological uplift," she whispered. "Someone broke the Union's non-interference laws." Tissot shrugged. "We prefer to call it justified technological sharing." Rank's eye stalks twitched. "And the disappeared expeditions?" Tissot's expression darkened. "Some violated our space without permission. Others were given a choice, leave or stay. Several chose to stay and have become valuable allies." He paused. "A few, however, tried to report our existence before we were ready. They couldn't be allowed to return." Zoric felt Laura stiffen beside him. "You're saying you killed them?" she asked carefully. Tissot tilted his head. "I'm saying they didn't leave." The words hung in the air. Zoric knew what he was implying. Humanity hadn't just survived, it had eliminated threats before they could grow. And now they weren't just waiting for first contact, they were controlling it. A declaration of power. Tissot turned, his expression once again calm. "Captain Vander, we are ready to enter the Galactic Union on our terms." Zoric swallowed. This is a lot to process," he admitted. "I am not authorized to negotiate Union membership." Tissot smiled. "We know." Rank shifted uncomfortably. "Then, what do you want from us?" Tissot tapped a control panel. A file package appeared on the hologram. "Transmit this to your superiors," he said. It is our formal request for recognition, along with proof of what the Union did to us." "And if we refuse?" Zoric asked, though he already suspected the answer. Tissot's smile never wavered, but his eyes sharpened. "Then you will be our honored guests until the next Union vessel accepts our invitation." The implied threat was clear. Lyra whispered, "We're prisoners." Tissot ignored the comment. Instead, he gestured toward the window. Beyond the colony, Zoric could now see human warships rising from Titan's surface. Large, advanced, prepared for war. "You see, Captain," Tissot said smoothly, "we have waited a long time for this day." He turned back to face them. "Your Union may think we are just a lost colony of primitives, but we are not here to ask for permission." He smiled. "We are here to join the stars on our own terms." The Void Seeker's crew stood in stunned silence. This was no mere first contact mission. This was the beginning of a new era, and Zoric knew the Galactic Union would never be the same again.